Hello and welcome to Decoding the WSL, podcast dedicated to the stats and facts in the WSL. Today we're taking a look at Aston Villa and Brighton as the next two teams in our WSL previews. We're going to be looking at how they got on last season, take a look at things that happened over the summer, then making some predictions about what we think is going to happen next year. I'm Sam Biccarino.
I'm Freya Taylor-Hall.
And I'm Sophie Whittaker.
Yes, here we are for another episode. We're on to Aston Villa and Brighton, as I said this week, and I've got two lovely guests with me, two new guests to the pod, Freya and Sophie. Freya, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thanks for having us on. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. I assume you're ready and raring to chat about Villa.
I can't wait. Yeah, I've had my own transfer tracker and everything, so I've been really invested in all the news, and even more news today that we may have even another transfer as well. But yeah, can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, no, of all the days to record, it had to be that day with the rumours coming out in the morning, but it is what it is, isn't it?
That's it. Usually it's a Wednesday, so it's good that it's a Thursday, yeah.
Sophie, how are you doing? Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good, thanks. Cannot wait for the new season to get started. Like, it feels like it's been so long without football, and now it's just like, hurry up and start the season now.
Yeah, I feel like that as well. I think I'm quite invested in men's football as well, and obviously that's now started. I need both of them at the same time again. It won't be long now. It's this month at least. We're in September. I should say it is currently Thursday the 5th of September as we record, so if things are a little outdated by the time you listen to it, then that is why. We are going to start with Aston Villa. So last season, they finished 7th in the league, 24 points. They were 7 points off the top half, and they were 26 points off the Champions League spots, which is quite a bit more of a drop-off than they would have hoped given the season before. They were 13 points behind the previous season, where Seville had such a good season. Obviously, Rachel Daly won Player of the Season. I don't mind which one of you wants to go first in this, actually. How did you feel going into last season and then at the end of the season? What was the sort of contrasting feelings for you?
I think the start of last season, I was really optimistic, hoping we were going to build on the season before. Like, it had been really positive, finished 5th, and felt like we got some like decent signings in, and then did not have a good start to the season at all. And then at the end, it wasn't great, but given where we were at the start of the season, 7th wasn't terrible. Like 6th, like top half would have been better, but given how we started, it could have been worse.
Could have been so much worse. Yeah, because we've all had chat in the fan club to be like, what actually happened? Because the season before last, all the players were so happy. There was so much freedom. You could just see all of the joy and the passion, like when they played. And it was a joy to watch them. And like you said, Rich Daly got the golden boot, and we were all there for Arsenal away where we won 2-0. I mean, that doesn't happen. And, you know, last day of the season, the sun was shining, and it just felt like everything was going right. And the pessimistic amongst us were very much, okay, so when's it going to go wrong? You know, when is that? When are the tables going to turn? And they turned at the beginning of the season. And it just felt like every single match, we just couldn't get a break, whether it was some dodgy refereeing, sorry to any referees out there, but the opening game of the season was so close, and all the first 4 matches essentially were against very tough opponents. And yeah, I think by the time I got to Christmas, Carla Ward said she was worried because, you know, managers have been sacked for less. And where we finished in 5th, because there was so much pressure on now, I think the players felt it, the fans felt it. And even though we didn't want to put it on the players, it was very much expected from an outside perspective as well, that they should get 5th, they should get those Champions League places. And we all kind of went, if they do, great, but we want to keep it at that 5th, 6th. We want to keep that consistency. So yeah, like Sophie said, the fact that we finished in 7 was, we'll take that. That's fine, because the first half of the season was diabolical, to say the least.
That's the polite way of saying it.
Yeah, it was just, yeah, there was something missing, there was something lost. But looking forward to this season, they just seem like a brand new team. Seems like fresh new start. And again, we'll talk about what's kind of gone on over the summer. But yeah, they seem like they're ready to kind of compete again as the Villa we saw 2 seasons ago. And hopefully that little blip is over.
I do also think this season we've got a slightly kinder run of games.
We do, yeah. Apart from Chelsea on opening day. That's a bit of a kick.
Yeah, but Chelsea don't always seem to have not great opening days. Like they got beat by Liverpool, was it 2 seasons ago on their opening day?
I think if you're going to play Chelsea, at some point, the opening day is when you want to do it, isn't it?
Yeah, get it out of the way.
So as we move on to what's happened over the summer, I'll start on the squad changes and who's left the squad this summer. So there's been quite a few high-profile players leaving. Obviously, Alicia Lehmann has gone to Juventus alongside boyfriend Douglas Luiz. Simone McGill has gone on a free to Birmingham. Living has gone to Rangers. That loan move has been made permanent. Freya Gregory has gone out on loan to Southampton. Personally, as someone that wasn't a Villa fan, I think the most impactful player to leave this season for you will be Daphne van Domselaar. Obviously, it's kind of a swap deal. You've got a bit back, but £100,000 is the reported fee for it. Sophie, do you think that's a deal that Villa were very happy to do? Do you think that's one that the player really wanted, or does the money make it worthwhile? That sort of thing.
Yeah, I think Daphne herself made it clear, sort of from the start of this year onwards, that she wanted to play Champions League. When the rumours first came out about her potentially going to Arsenal, I think she was asked about it in like a Q&A, pre-match Q&A at Villa, and she was like, yeah, well, I want to play Champions League. I think a lot of the Villa fans were like, okay, well, this deal, if Arsenal go in for her, she's going. That's not a question. It's kind of a hard one because I don't think she ever showed the best of herself at Villa. There was a lot of hype around her coming in, and then I don't know if she just didn't settle well into the team or didn't settle well into the league. I don't know, but she didn't quite hit, I don't think, the highs that people were expecting her to after losing Hannah Hampton like the season before. That was like in terms of the goalkeeping department, I think losing Hannah Hampton was a bigger loss to Villa.
That was very much her time to shine then. As soon as Hannah Hampton went out the door, it was, you are going to be the number one. Obviously there was an elite as well, but Van Domselaar very much had that spot nailed down. I'll go on to the goalkeeper situation next, because as we go into players that came in, start off with the other end of that kind of a swap deal, because Serena D'Angelo came the other way from Arsenal into Villa. I think most people would say that Van Domselaar was the better keeper out of the two, but Sabs, as she's known, is still very good. She still was getting some minutes at Arsenal. I'm interested to know, because I think an elite is a really good keeper. I think she's improved a lot. Time has gone on as well. And I think Sophia Poor is another one that will only get better with time. Freya, in the short term, out of an elite and D'Angelo, who do you think is going to get that number one spot?
It's tough because I really hope Anneli gets it, because she's really worked for it and she really deserves it. She's been getting starts for New Zealand. Like she's earned this. And anytime, like when Daphne got injured last season, she really stepped up and she proved she could quite easily be number one. Sabs has come in, really happy with that. I would quite happily just take all of the Canadians. Some people want the Aussies. We would quite happily take the Canadians. And from what we've seen of Sabs, she's very confident. She kind of commands that area, and she just seems genuinely lovely as well as a human being. And she's wearing the number one as well. So I hope it becomes a bit like a Chelsea situation where we can rotate keepers, because they've all got their strengths and they all should be playing. And you're right with Sophia Poor as well. She played the full 90 against Charlton at the weekend and was incredibly good. So I think any of the three could be up to the task. But yeah, I hope an elite becomes that kind of go-to number one. They're all worthy of taking it.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're, especially for me, Leet and D'Angelo, I think they're both almost similar on level. Obviously, Leet's a lot younger, but if Villa especially have some good runs in the cup competitions, you're going to need extra players throughout the squad in all positions. So that will give those even more opportunities rather than just having the 22 league games and that's it. In terms of others coming in, I think Villa might be up for best window in the WSL. In terms of the players that have come in, I'm just going to run through the names. There's Missy Bo-Kearns, who's come in from Liverpool. She's obviously captained England at under 23 level. She was Liverpool's youngest ever captain, age 20. She's got really high numbers for shots, crosses, key passes, blocks, recoveries as a centre midfielder. So for a centre midfielder, she really excels in all of those. There's Katie Robinson that's come in from Brighton. I do think she's going to be probably a bigger loss for Brighton than she will be an addition for Villa, but we'll come on to them later, obviously. But I wanted to ask you, Freya, because I know you said you were at the pre-season game the other day. So Paola Thomas is someone that most of us won't know much about. How did she look to you? Because obviously she's done quite well in League F and now has moved over to a very sort of progressive team within the WSL.
Yeah, I have to say we were all really impressed with all of the new signings that we saw. So Katie Robinson, just to quickly go over her first half down the right wing, she was incredible. Second half lost a bit of pace, but there was a lot of formation change and things like that. So I was impressed by by her. But yeah, Paolo Tomas, as soon as she came on the pitch, her and Miri Taylor play off each other really well because they're both very physical, very strong. They want the ball. And I think Villa needed more of that aggression. And of course, she then scored the second goal as well. So she's very versatile. And yeah, she was just a sight to watch. She really was. So yeah, really excited to see what she can do and where Robert DePau sees her in his starting 11. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'll be interesting to see how the team goes as the season goes on, because I think when you've got quite a lot of high quality players coming in at the same time, you don't want to disrupt the squad too much, but at the same time you put these players in for a reason. You don't necessarily want to change half the starting lineup from the start, but you do need to bed these players in and give them the minutes because they've come to the club because they're really good players. There was obviously Chastity Grant, who we haven't really touched on that much yet. She won the Eredivisie a couple of years ago at Ajax, and she's had really good numbers for goal involvement. So you probably expect to see her getting some assists and getting on the score sheet. Another player that's come in is Jill Byings from Bayern on loan. It should be interesting to see how she fits in the squad, especially as a loan player. When you've already got in quite a few high quality players, and then bring extra players in on loan, quite interesting, I think.
She hasn't played any pre-season, so it'll be interesting to see whatever knock she's got, or is it reduced minutes, that kind of thing. Yeah, how she'll go in. So maybe she might make an appearance this weekend against Everton. Fingers crossed. Yeah, she's the only one we haven't seen yet.
I assume she's in training and all of that sort of jazz.
We haven't actually seen her, have we, Sophie? She was watching. I'm not too sure if she's actually been training.
She wasn't in any of the training photos in Marbella at the pre-season, like warm weather training camp. But yeah, like you said, she went out to watch them.
Yeah, but not actually training. So fingers crossed we'll see something from her soon.
Cool. And then I'm going to actually lead straight into one of the questions we've had on socials, which was from Steve on Instagram. He said, do you think the change in manager or the change in players will have more of an impact this season? Obviously, you've got Robert DePau come in from FC Twente. He won the Eredivisie last season, beating Ajax. Sophie, who do you think is going to be the sort of instigator of Villa's success this season?
I think it's hard to separate the two because I think there's a lot of his influence, like the new manager's influence already in the signings that Villa have made. So Chastity Grant and Jill Byings are both players that Robert Pauw's familiar with, either from the Dutch national team or from the Dutch league. So it'd be interesting. Freya's probably got more of an idea on his playing style that he wants to interpret.
Me? Yeah, no, from the Charlton game, because obviously that was the first one that was ticketed, the first one we could go to, and we were right behind the dugout as well, so we got to hear everything. And he's very in charge, he's very at the forefront. He didn't sit down once. He was constantly going, right, okay, I want you there, left up a bit, and it sounded a bit like a PE lesson at some point, but you could tell that he's just trying to get them in the habit of, this is where I want you. This is where I want you to do. You need to be linking up. You need to be looking. So it seems like he's a very different type of manager, because we all have a lot of love for Carla Ward and everything that she did for the team. But I think there were a lot more issues maybe behind the scenes that were kind of alluded to through press conferences and things like that. Obviously, we don't know. Disclaimer, we don't know anything. But moving forward now, and all of the rumours about maybe money coming from Daphne when she left and all of these other things going on, it seems like he's come in, he's brought his own backroom staff with him to give him that push. They've brought Sean Gorter in. How has that even happened, from Man City? They've got a new goalkeeper coach who, actually, I will just touch upon, when there was a break in play, the goalkeeper coach was having a chat. Chris Steigl, I believe his name is, from Newcastle. He was going over, all the assistants were going over to Sophia and were touching base with her, which was really nice. So because she's still slightly, obviously, young and maybe doesn't have that maturity still, but even if she did, it was someone else to touch base with and someone specific for her that she could have that conversation with to make sure she's doing the right things and that kind of thing. And they had a folder on set pieces. So everyone that came on, they were like, right, come on, look back to the folder. This is what we're going to do. So it just seemed very well thought out, very professional. And yeah, he seems like he's going to be very, very demanding of his players, and maybe a bit more like Emma Hayes in the sense of, okay, if you're not doing your job, off, because we've got the players now. Hopefully there's that big of a push, that bigger bit of competition, so that everyone is fighting for that starting 11.
I think that sounds like he's quite what I'd call a prescriptive coach. You get some coaches that will just say, give a rough idea of what the team are trying to do. Maybe there's certain scenarios that they want them to do certain things, but generally are quite free-flowing. Whereas you then get some managers, Emma Hayes is a good example. On the men's side, Antonio Conte is always the classic example, that you play their way, they will talk to you throughout the whole game to tell you exactly what you're not doing in the right way. It'll be interesting to see if he continues that throughout the season. It might be that he's just trying to implement his style, and then once they're used to it, it's more free-flowing. Or it might just be that that's the kind of coach he is. And I think it'll then be interesting to see what sort of players adapt to that. I know from playing myself, I quite like those prescriptive coaches, and I like playing under them because I know exactly what I'm supposed to do in what scenario. I don't have to, it sounds weird, but I don't have to think too much. I know what my job is. I know what the next pass is. I know where my players on my team are going to be. Whereas some players prefer not to be spoken to and prefer that just sort of free-flowing play.
Yeah, that freedom.
Interesting to see how that progresses throughout the season, whether he stays like that, whether the players like it. Might see a couple of players fade out a bit and a couple of players phase in with that.
Yeah, it's really interesting, yeah.
Title. Other sort of talking points I had on Villa, obviously over the summer, Miri Taylor, loan move has become permanent. I think she's going to be quite a good signing.
She's phenomenal. She was the best player on the pitch at the weekend.
Because obviously she was elsewhere in the WSL before, and I thought she was always had really good potential, and I thought always did well on the pitch, but never really got spoken about that much, just sort of flew under the radar a bit. There was always someone else grabbing the limelight. So I think being at Villa, and especially getting a lot of play time, hopefully that'll be good news. Sophia Poor signed her first pro contract.
Yeah.
Something else that has broken this morning is a rumour that Gabby Nunes from Levante may be joining Villa. As you're hearing this, listener, you may know that this deal has now gone through, or it might have completely fallen through, in which case ignore it. But Villa are reported to have been told that they need to meet her €300,000 release clause. She's 27 years old, so she's pretty much in her peak. Featured in 5 of the 6 Olympic matches for Brazil, only missing out in the final. She's got 11 goals in 28 appearances for Levante last season, 1 goal every 177 minutes. So pretty much 1 in every 2 matches, which is a really good hit rate. Sophie, do you think that she's going to fit in well at Villa if she comes in? And who do you think is then going to miss out on a place in the starting lineup?
Yeah, her whole profile is impressive. And I mean, 300,000 euros release clause, that's massive money from Villa to be putting down for a player. But on the other hand, Villa have so much forward depth at the minute. Do we need to be spending that kind of level of money on another forward at this point, especially when defensively is probably the area realistically that Villa need to strengthen up the most? She if we get her, that's fantastic. But is that the area of the pitch that really needs bolstering the most right now?
Yeah, because we all kind of said where this money come from, and is that the best way we could have spent it? Because like Sophie said, phenomenal player, and the stats kind of speak for themselves. But the forwards we've got, that clearly means, is someone maybe thinking of then going? Because like Sophie said, it's absolutely stacked up front. So unless he's going to really go for that rotation, or maybe have her as the central, focus up front. But yeah, we could have definitely done with more more defenders, not another forward. But hey, if that's in the plan, then in Robert we will have to trust.
Fingers crossed it'll all work out fine. It'll be rosy. It's going to have to, if my predictions are going to come to fruition. So as we move on to our expectations for Villa this season, as the non-Villa fan, I'm going to go first. And it might actually be one of the more positive outlooks on the season, because I said that I think Villa are going to finish 5th this year. Definitely not going to have enough to touch the top 3. Don't think they'll have enough to touch Man United, who I think are going to finish 4th. But I think there is now a bit of a gap, especially in player quality, between Villa and the likes of Liverpool and Spurs. I think Liverpool and Spurs have both did really well last season, but aren't as strong now. Whereas Villa have taken a huge leap, and I think are going to do really well this season. So I think they're going to finish 5th in the league. And my sort of bold prediction this year is that I think Villa are going to get to a final of one of the domestic cups. I think the top 4 are all going to have priorities. Man City and Arsenal are going to be focusing on the league. Chelsea are going to be focusing on trying to get into Champions League final and probably try and win that. Manchester United are going to be aiming to break the top 3. And then none of them are really focusing on the domestic cups. So I think Villa, with the squad they have, and quite deep squad now, could end up going quite far in those competitions. They're my predictions for the season. I'm going to start with Sophie. How do you think Villa are going to get on this year?
Yeah, I think your predictions are possibly slightly more optimistic than even mine. I think top 6 would be good. I feel like 5th or 6th, I think you're right. They're not touching the top 3. United, I still don't know how I feel about United. So whether they could come close to United, that would be good. But yeah, and then cups, getting to a final would be good. Getting to the semi-finals would probably be a good target though. Depends who they meet as well, because you've got your Chelseas and your Arsenals that come in later on the Conti Cup.
Yeah, it's
and Man City
literally
as well.
the luck of the draw, isn't it?
Yeah.
Freya, how about you? How do you think Villa are going to do this year?
I'm cautiously optimistic. I think that's where it's got to be. Yeah, I'd say anything higher than 7th. So that 5th and 6th, just to kind of, again, prove that we can be up and around those teams. We can be taking points off the top teams, that we do have the squad and the capability to be up there, and certainly not bottom half of the table. So yeah, I think anything in and around there would all be happy. Again, just to prove we should be there. I think we've all said kind of a cup run. Again, it'd be great to get to another semi-final, possibly even a final. Like you said, depending on where teams are focusing on. Maybe that's more up for grabs with the squad we've got, the quality we've got now. So yeah, I'd say a good cup run, and then maybe 5th or 6th for the league would be good. But I don't think there might be as much of a gap between the places this season. So I know you said, was it 7 points we were off the top? I think so.
It was, 7 points off 6th place.
7 points off 6th place. Yeah, I think if we get 6th, I think hopefully between 6th and 5th, there shouldn't be as big of a gap. So hopefully we are taking more points from those bigger teams this season. So that's what I'm hoping for, keeping everything crossed.
So that is a brief overview of how we think Villa's season's going to go, and a bit of a preview. Next up, we're going to take a look at Brighton. So last season, they finished 9th with 19 points. Despite being 9th, they were quite far off relegation. They were 13 points ahead of relegation, and actually slightly close to the top half, only 12 points off. But with sort of 4 matches to go, it was confirmed that they'd be finishing in the bottom half and not getting relegated. I'm going to ask you both to put yourself in the shoes of a Brighton fan for this section of the podcast. I know we've got 0 Brighton fans between the 3 of us, but as a Brighton fan, would you be happy with that season last year? Because I don't think the squad was that great, other than obviously Elizabeth Turland up front. No one really hit any massive heights. So do you think avoiding relegation comfortably was a good result for them, given the situation they were in?
Yeah, it was a tough one, wasn't it? Because Brighton just couldn't seem to get a good run of games. It just seemed like something was missing. And like you said about Elizabeth Turland, she did wonders. She was second joint goal scorer, wasn't she, last season? So she was really getting them through a lot of that. And now they've lost her. I know we're going to talk about transfers in a sec, but it just felt like with the players that they had and the names that they had, they should have done better than they did. And I remember watching, it might have been against Everton. I think it was that game. And people watching it were just like, and again, no offense to any Brighton fans, it just felt like there was a lack of fire, a lack of passion. It was almost boring. I hate using the word boring, but it just felt like that kind of joy had gone out of it. And I don't know if that was something maybe behind the scenes or just kind of squad wise it wasn't working. But yeah, if Brighton were my team last season, I'd be disappointed with where they came, but relieved that it wasn't worse. Because at one point, again with Villa, it was quite touch and go whether they'd end up at the end.
Yeah, after the first few games, I think 5 games was it at the start that lost the first 5. It was quite a difficult opposition, but yeah, Brighton didn't have a good start to the season either. There was a win against Everton right at the start, but then lost to West Ham, Spurs, and then Chelsea, which you can forgive them that. It wasn't a great start to the season. They never really got going. They only had 2 instances where they went 2 matches without losing. One, weirdly, was against Manchester United, followed by Manchester City. And the other one was Leicester, followed by West Ham. So they didn't really get a good run together at any point. They just sort of coasted through. And I guess, yeah, like you say, if I was a Brighton fan, I'd just be glad that season was over and just looking forward to the next one. We're going to move on to the transfers, as we sort of alluded to a moment ago, because I think certainly within the WSL, I think potentially the transfer of the season, or the signing of the season, is going to go to Manchester United this season for Elizabeth Turland. It's a huge coup for Man United, but at the same time, it's a huge, huge loss for Brighton. She was the second top scorer in the league, as you said. She really overachieved her XG. She scored 13 of Brighton's 26 goals. She literally scored half of their goals. And I think that for a team of Brighton's budget and structure and stature within the league, I think she's absolutely irreplaceable. Sophie, I don't know how you feel about the Turland transfer, because I think it's one that caught a lot of people's eye. And how do you think that'll affect Brighton this year?
Yeah, I think, like you said, Elizabeth, and like Freya said, Elizabeth Turland was kind of their, like, sort of what kept them going at points. Like, I think Man United, it'll be interesting to see how she fits in with Man United, mostly because Skinner seems to have he likes who he likes to play, and he doesn't seem to have a lot of rotation. So it's kind of, if she fits in and gels, I think she'll have a fantastic season. And if she doesn't, she could spend most of it on the bench. But I think Brighton will really miss that attacking threat, especially with losing Katie Robinson as well to Villa.
Yeah, Katie Robinson was probably the other main signing. Probably not quite as big as Turland, but still quite an important player for them to miss. Katie Robinson last year played every single match in the league. She was incredibly clinical with her shooting. She only had 4 shots for every goal she scored, which is really low, which means she's really good at it. And she was also one of their best players for the sort of creativity side of it. So she topped the team for shot creating actions, goal creating actions, and progressive carries. So basically, if she was near the goal or anywhere in their half, she could get the team, someone else, probably Elizabeth Turland, into a really good goal scoring position, at least for a good shot. I think with Turland gone, you'd have maybe have thought she could be that player that becomes the star player within the side, but it's not to be, and she's started a different journey at Villa. There were a few other quite high-profile names that have left Brighton this season. So Tricky Sarri has gone to Everton on a free. They've lost Giulia Zigotti to Bayern, again on a free. Tatiana Pinto has gone to Atletico, and Ebba Kuhlberg has gone to Juve. So some 3 really high-quality sides in Bayern, Atletico, and Juve. And obviously Everton, fellow WSL side that are going to be fighting around the same sort of area and that sort of bottom half of the table this season. It seems like quite important players that have gone and really taken the next step in their career, I think. People coming into Brighton, there are a couple of major ones. I think one that's probably a name that not many of us know within the UK, but I've done a little bit of research on him, is the new manager, Dario Vidosic. He is 37, played for Australia, but was born in Yugoslavia. So was a professional player himself at international level. He had 23 caps for Australia. This is his second managerial job. So he had 2 years at Melbourne City. He won the A-League in the second season that he was there. So he's got a bit of success behind him. I think the main signing, though, for Brighton this year is probably Fran Kirby from Chelsea.
Yeah, they've done well getting her on a free, haven't they? I mean, that's absolute madness.
It's one of those, I think they've capitalised on the fact that Chelsea have let her go. I can't imagine that Fran Kirby didn't sign a contract because Brighton were interested. I think she was leaving Chelsea anyway, and Brighton have been the team to say, come play here. She obviously lives, I don't know if anyone has seen Fran Kirby's Instagram over the summer, but it's been regular posts about doing up her house.
Doing a house?
So she obviously lives I can't remember exactly what the company was called, something like Surrey Construction Services. So she obviously lives in Surrey somewhere. She wants to stay there because she's doing her house up, and Brighton is quite easy commute for her. As someone that used to live in those areas, I know that that's quite an easy place to get to. But yeah, I think she's still got it. Personally, she's had a bit of an injury problem. She only played 2 full 90s last season, but she did feature in 21 matches in the league. So she's not necessarily playing the whole match, but she is playing quite a lot. And she was the highest in the league last season for shot creating actions per 90 and goal creating actions per 90. So she's still got that creativity. Sophie, I'm going to throw this to you, but do you think Fran Kirby is going to have an impact big enough to sort of swallow up the loss of players like Katie Robinson and Elizabeth Turland?
It's a difficult one. I think Fran Kirby, when she's fit, is an excellent player and absolutely still has it. But she's had a lot of time in the past few seasons at Chelsea where she's been out with various injuries and illnesses. And if she ends up out again, I think that'll be a massive issue for Brighton. And they haven't really got anyone else. I'm just looking through who they've got in. It doesn't look like they've got anyone really else at the same level of all the players they've lost.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. And that actually answers. I'm going to move on to this before I get to the rest of the transfers quickly, because I think it's a good lead. But we had a question from Beth on Instagram that said, with Brighton's transfer window bringing in and losing some really good forwards, Do you think they're going to score more or less goals this season than they did last season? As I mentioned a minute ago, they scored 26 goals last year, which just over one a game. It's not an incredible amount of goals, but it's not nothing. Freya, do you think they can eclipse that? Do you think they can get more than 26?
It's going to be interesting because I was looking at their preseason and they've actually had some quite high scoring games. So they beat Portsmouth 4-0. They had a 7-0 win against Malaga. They had a 3-2 victory over Granada. So they are scoring, they are performing. Fran Kirby was on the score sheet, and also a new signing. Hang on, let me try and not butcher it. Kiko Saike. And you just think the people that they've brought in, maybe you may not have known them as maybe like a household name as Fran Kirby was, but they've brought in a really good mix of youth and experience in a lot of different positions as well. So I think maybe they might not score maybe as many, but I think they've got a lot of goals from a lot of different areas this season. So yeah, I'm really interested to see how they do and kind of how they set up. And of course, Bruno Villamala as well, how they've managed to sign Bruno on a loan. And it just felt at one point, because I was updating my tracker, and it felt like every day almost there was another Brighton signing. And I think they've brought in as many as they've let go. I think they brought in one more player than they've let go. So yes, they lost good quality talent, but they brought in some good talent as well. So yeah, I'm really interested to see how they set up and how they do.
Yeah, they brought in some talent that I think a lot of us won't know necessarily, won't watch week in, week out. There may be a few, they've brought in Rachel McLaughlin from Rangers, they brought in Beck Rayner from Sheffield United. So players that people will potentially be familiar with, but they have got, like you say, they've got players in from Japan. They've got a couple of players in from SC20. They've got Aisha Masaka from Hacken. It's very on brand for Brighton as a club to get these players in that you might not necessarily know that much about. But if they do their recruitment like the men do, you'll know that you might not have heard of them, but I bet they're an absolute superstar. And within a few years, they'll probably be getting scouted by some of the top teams. Another player that's come over from Chelsea is Liana Kankovic. She made 23 league appearances in her 2 seasons at Chelsea. Before that, winning the Malson Scan 3 times within the space of 4 seasons at Rosengard. So she's going to be one that I think has kind of flown under the radar a little bit because Fran Kirby's come in with her. Fran Kirby obviously is the bigger name, but I think she can be someone else that will have quite a big impact at Brighton this year, and the fans will grow to love. I know a lot of Chelsea fans were sad to see her go, albeit could understand it because she wasn't playing much, but still sad to see her leave. So I'm going to go on to expectations for the season. Personally, I think they are going to struggle a bit this year. I think they've made some really good signings, but I think they've also lost some really good players. So I don't think they're going to have that sort of season where they can really push forward. I don't think they're going to get relegated, don't get me wrong, but I think they're going to regress a little bit. They finished 9th last year. I've got them to finish 10th this year. Sophie, how about you? How do you think Brighton are going to get on this year?
Yeah, I think similar to you. I don't think they're going to be in the relegation battle, but they equally could be. But I do think they'll be towards the sort of bottom end of the table. Like Spurs, Liverpool, Leicester, Villa, I think they've all been strengthening the past couple of seasons. And I think, I'm not sure Brighton's quite at their level yet.
Yeah, if you had to put a number on it, what position do you think they're going to finish in?
Yeah, I think 10th. I think just outside that relegation, like battle spots.
Freya, how about you? How do you think they're going to get on this year?
I think I'm a bit more optimistic. I was going to go between 8th and 10th for that one, because I think they've had a lot of changes, but they feel, from all the match reports that I've read, they do seem like they're quite strong already in their relationships and the way that they're playing. So yeah, I think they might do better than expected. But like you said, not really in that top half yet. But I think if they build a good foundation this season, I think they can hopefully push on and keep improving.
Cool. It sounds like we're all on near enough the same page. So that's likely where they'll end up. And now it's time for this. Yes, it is time for everyone's favourite game show. I'm sure certainly our favourite game show here on Decoding the WSL. It is Know Your Stat. So today, between Freya and Sophie, we've got 3 categories for you. I'm I'm going to ask you them, obviously, one at a time. You're going to take turns answering. Like I said, there's 3 categories, so it's a best of 3. If someone wins the first 2 rounds, we'll still do the last one, see if you can make it clean sweep. So for the first round, I'm going to give Sophie the honour of picking what type of question you have. Would you like the question about appearances? Would you like the question about creativity? Or would you like the question about goalkeepers?
I think I'm going to go with appearances.
So Sophie picked the round. Freya gets to answer first on this one.
Ooh.
So for the first round, it is Aston Villa and Brighton players that made at least 17 appearances in the WSL last season. So they only need to have appeared. They don't need to have started. There are 22 players that are correct answers. And we're going to start with Freya.
So last season, Rachel Daly,
That is
Like
correct.
Katie Robinson.
Yeah, played every game.
Tatiana Pinto.
Correct.
Adriana Leon?
Yep. She made 18 appearances.
Oh, just Beatrice Sari.
Yep, she made 19 appearances. Correct answer.
Julia Zighiotti?
She made 20. Another correct answer.
Anna Patton.
Anna Patton played every game.
Jordan Nobbs?
Jordan Nobbs also played every game. Correct answer.
What a player. Well, I'm having a complete mind blank about who plays for him. Mark Pacheco.
Mas Pacheco is correct answer. 18 appearances.
Sophie Bagley?
Correct answer. 19 appearances last year.
Kirsty Hansen.
Kirsty Hansen made 16 appearances last year. It was an incorrect answer, which means Sophie still needs to give me a correct answer to take the round.
Rachel Corsie?
Rachel Corsie only missed 1 game last season. She had 21. So Sophie wins the first round. I'll tell you, the players that you could have had were Danielle Turner, Ebony Salmon, Emma Kohlberg, Elizabeth Turland, Hero Bergsvand, Kenza Darley, Ligra Min, Maisie Simons, Maria Thorisdottir, Sarah Mailing, and Vicky Lasada.
Yeah. See, I didn't think Kenza Darley would have done because I just felt like she was injured for the beginning of the season, which was why I was like, I don't know if Kenza Darley's on that list. Like,
he did make exactly 17 appearances, so she was just on the cusp, but 1 more than Kirsty Hansen, obviously. So Sophie takes the first round. Freya, you get to pick the second round. Would you like the one about creativity, or would you like the one about goalkeepers?
Let's do goalkeepers.
Okay, goalkeepers it is. So I'd like to name for me any of the 18 players that kept at least 1 clean sheet in the WSL last season. We'll start on Sophie.
Daphne Van Domselaar?
Correct. 2.
Marriott.
Marriott is on the list. She was second.
Oh, Kiara Keating.
Yeah, Kiara Keating topped 9 clean sheets.
Now, do I go rogue or do I go Courtney Brosnan?
Yeah, Courtney Brosnan had 5 clean sheets last season.
Hannah Hampton?
Yep, Hannah Hampton had 6. Correct answer.
How many were looking for again, sorry?
There are 18 in total. Anyone that kept at least 1 clean sheet.
At least 1. Okay. Let's go for Musovic.
Musovic kept 4. Correct answer.
Zinsberger?
Zinsberger is correct. She kept 5.
Bagley?
Bagley is a correct answer. She kept 2.
Oh, 2.
Only 2, but she's a correct answer nonetheless. There are some players that only kept 1.
Is Rachel Laws one of them?
Rachel Laws kept 5. She is a correct answer.
Nice.
Oh, very good. Very good. Liza Cook?
She is correct. She is one of the players that kept 1 clean sheet.
Oh,
What about Tegan Micah?
Tegan Micah is a correct answer. She kept 3.
I'm going to risk it. Annalie?
Annalie kept 2.
Yes.
Correct answer.
I'm running out of goalkeepers now.
There's still 6 correct answers left.
Oh. Did Anne-Catherine Berger play any league games? I'm going to say it. That's my wild card because I'm running out of names here.
Anne-Catherine
But I
Berger
can't remember if she played.
kept 2 clean sheets.
Let's go with... Say it again. Do I go rogue? Do I get another one?
I think if you haven't got anything else, you've got to go rogue.
Oh, Mackenzie Arnold.
Yes, correct answer.
Oh,
She had
God.
2. 4 players left.
I'm just running out of goalkeepers. I think I'm going to... Wait, I don't even think she was in the... I don't even know if she was in the league last year. Oh, man. This is a wild card because I cannot even remember if they were in the league last year or not. Is Megan Walsh.
Megan Walsh
Feeling they
did not keep a clean sheet
Yeah,
last
there we go.
season in the WSL. So
I
Freya still needs to give me a
can't remember where
correct
she went.
Let's go for... I don't think Fallon played a league game, did she? So let's go for Leitzig before she got injured.
Leipzig made 1 clean sheet last season. That's correct answer.
Oh.
So Freya wins. It's 1-1. The answers that you could have had were Barbora Votakova. You could have had Becky Spencer, also from Spurs,
Becky
and
Spencer, of
Sabs,
course.
Sabrina D'Angelo.
Oh, Sabs had some. Oh.
See, I was like, I didn't realise, in my head, she'd just played cup games last year. I didn't realise she'd played league games. And now I'm thinking about it, she did play a couple of league games at the start of the season.
Okay, so it's 1-1. We move on to the decider. It's going to be Freya to start this one off. It's your turn. And I would like you to name for me any player that has had at least 12 assists across the last 6 seasons in the WSL.
Ooh.
So they don't have to have played every season, but across the last 6 seasons, they need to have had 12 or more assists. There are 30 players to pick from on this one. I've gone for a slightly larger range because I think this might be a bit harder than the other two, but there's some quite big names on it, so I think you should be okay. I'm also going to give you both a life on this one. So you get to get one wrong, and you're still in.
I would like to start with Lauren Hemp, please.
Yeah, that's, I think, quite an easy one. She had 34. She is second on the list.
I'm going to go for Guro Reiten.
Yep, 31. Quite comfortably on the list.
Oh, very good. Katie McCabe?
Katie McCabe is 32.
I'm going to go Kirsty Hansen.
Kirsty Hansen has 14.
And that is
just about a correct answer.
Well done. I might go Lauren James?
Lauren James is your first life used up.
Oh, really?
I'm scrolling down now to find her on my list. Lauren James has had 5 assists.
No. 5?
Only 5.
Talash needs to up a game.
To be fair, she's only really played last season and the season before.
Well,
made a lot of substitute influences and
yeah, I mean, you just expect a lot more goal involvements, don't you?
I'm gonna go for Fran Kirby.
Fran Kirby is a correct answer. She's had 23. Freya's got to be right now.
No pressure or anything.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Katie Zellum.
Katie Zellum also has 23. Correct answer.
I think I'm gonna go with Pernille Harder.
That is your live used up.
Oh.
Pernille Harder in the last 6 seasons has had 9 assists. And not quite.
Yeah, I thought it was more than that.
Off, not quite, only 9.
It's weird what you get in your head, isn't it, about certain players and what you think they've done. Ooh, okay.
There are a couple of players on the list that, when I read them out, you'll be like, oh, really? That surprises me. But there are also a few players on the list where you'll be like, oh, I can't believe I didn't say them.
That's definitely going to be me in about a minute.
You've still not got 2 of the top 3.
Really? Niamh Charles.
Niamh Charles is a correct answer. She has had exactly 12. Right on the cusp, but correct answer nonetheless.
I am going to go for Kim Little.
Kim Little has had 14. The correct answer.
Very good. Why is that? You can't think of any teams and any. Again, do I go rogue? Frida Mornham?
Frida Mornham is an incorrect answer.
Oh, no.
Frida Mornham has had 4 assists in the last 6 seasons combined. Only 4. She's 106th on the list.
Frida.
Wow.
What are you playing with? Oh, yeah.
So, if Sophie can get one right, she wins. If not, Freya, you're back in the game.
Get it wrong.
I'm going to go for Kenza Darley.
Oh, good shout.
Kenza Darley has had 19 assists. She has the correct answer. Sophie takes the win.
Well done.
Congratulations. I'll let you know the names you missed. So the player with the most assists is one that you didn't get. With 39 is Beth Mead.
Oh, of course.
Other correct answers were Bethany England, Caitlin Ford, Caroline Weir, Chloe Kelly, Amanda Donk, Ella Toon, Ellen White, Erin Cuthbert, Hannah Blundell, Jordan Nobbs, Kira Walsh, Bunny Shaw, Laura Coombs, Leah Galton, Lisa Evans, Lucy Staniforth, Nikita Paris, Anna Battier, Sam Kerr, and third place Viv Miedemar.
It sounds really stupid when you read all those names out because you're like, yeah, of course they have.
That does happen.
To be fair, I had both Ella Toon and Erin Cuthbert in my head for
I had Tooney in my head, but I was like, is it enough? Yeah.
Congratulations to Sophie. You are today's winner of Know Your Stat, winning 2-1 in the end on that deciding game. And that is the end of the podcast. So we had a look over Aston Villa and Brighton this evening, and a little preview for their 24-25 season. Listener, thank you for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it. And Freya and Sophie, thank you very much for joining me. Do you two just want to give a little word about yourselves, where people can find you on social media?
Mine's at A Place of Mine on pretty much most of my socials, though I don't actually post that much about football. It tends to be more everything with a bit of football mixed in. So, yeah.
And Freya?
Yeah, so if you do want to follow me, I'm at TFreyaTWrites across all socials. Or if you want to hear me talking more about Villa Women, then I'm at the Whole 115 Yards as well across all socials.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us. Like I said, thank you to you, listener, for joining us as well. And we'll see you at the next one.